If you didn't have some anxiety before your shot, after you see how you're treated, then you got some anxiety.
And in this process, they have been successful at conditioning society to turn their backs on the people that stepped up to fight the pandemic. We all stepped up to be those soldiers on the front lines, to stand arm in arm to end the pandemic, and we got left on the battlefield.
Look at how we responded just with a little tincture of fear, and how much liberty we were willing to readily give up. I'm very fearful if we don't address this, if we don't, have safety nets for society, if we don't have federal regulatory agencies that are actually looking out for us without their own conflicts of interest. This is going to come back, whether it be pandemic or the next whatever experiment comes up. We're going to be in a situation that's even exponentially worse.
React-19 is a science-based nonprofit offering financial, physical, and emotional support for those suffering from long-term COVID-19 vaccine adverse events globally. Our mission is to bring healing to the moms, dads, friends, and loved ones who are facing life-altering side effects from their COVID-19 vaccine. We build bridges between patients and research institutions in order to develop a better understanding of our vaccine complications. React-19 works with both patients and providers, as well as research teams. Programs include funding, promoting, and sharing relevant scientific research, bringing the right medical teams together with patients, direct financial assistance, educational outreach, and supporting communities where impacted people can begin to heal physically and emotionally.
Yeah, you better. Cause you want this, I want this. Everybody in this, what should have it? Stop illusions, it's in your hands. Show yourself, reveal it to them. Yeah, you better. Take the time to recognize it. You won't leave me even if you tried it. You're the artist, I'm the mess, and happily we found the new in your hands.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Unlimited with Elisabeth Carson. Today I have a very, very special and a very important interview that I cannot wait to put out there. I have literally been looking forward to this for quite a while, since when we first met, which was a couple weeks back. So thank you so much, Brianne Dressen and Joel Walskog, to Unlimited with me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, absolutely. So where do we even start? We talked a couple weeks back, and you guys have basically been on this initiative to spread real truths about what happened during the pandemic. So if you guys could just explain a little bit about yourselves and why you got involved in this initiative, that would be great. So I guess we'll start with you, Brianne.
Okay, so, well, before the pandemic started, I was a healthy mother of 2 young kids and a preschool teacher. I ran my own small business and life was great, right? And of course, just like everybody, most other people, 2020 changed a lot of things for me. I enrolled in the clinical trial for the COVID vaccine here in the United States. I was so just wanting to be part of the solution and help get us all out of the pandemic. Of course, the news at that time had already been talking about how these clinical trials were robust and they were so effective, and we were going to stop the spread of the disease with this vaccine. And so I was like, yeah, if they just need more numbers, I'll jump in and offer myself to help get us all out of the pandemic. But on November 4th, 2020, I went in and got my one and only shot. And within an hour, I started having tingling down the same arm as my injection. And from there, it just spiraled into more than 20 symptoms, landed me in the hospital multiple times, ER visits multiple times. I lost the control of my legs, my bladder, my bowels. And now I'm left with this severe neuropathy that basically it feels like I'm rolling in cactus 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Unfortunately, the clinical trial data didn't report my injury correctly. I was removed from the trial, so I couldn't get the second dose. And life went on as if, my participation in the trial didn't even happen. The public didn't know these types of adverse events could happen. So as time went on, people like Joel Walskog, who will introduce himself, got injured, and we started finding each other online. And then, of course, online censored us and they shut us down just for trying to get answers for our conditions. So then we started a nonprofit. So Joel and I currently run the actually the world's largest COVID vaccine injury advocacy organization. We have 40,000 members here in the United States alone, and we help people with medical, emotional, spiritual support, and we also help people financially.
Mhm. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I remember you told me that story a couple weeks ago, and it breaks my heart when I hear things like this. I mean, my good friend Jess put me in touch with you guys, and unfortunately, she lives daily with her injury from this vaccine. And it's like all of these great people, trusting in the system and wanting to do good and help people are the ones that are paying for this. And it's just, thank you guys for what you've done to provide support and resources for people, because it's like the system that created these injuries on the people are just ignoring the people, and almost from the outside looking in, it's like, oh no, they're just crazy. Like that's kind of the vibe that they're giving the people that are injured from what they wanted you to take. It's not fair. So I just, thank you guys for the work that you're doing and for the nonprofit that you started, because otherwise, what were people going to do? And I can't wait to hear your story again, Joel.
Well, Elizabeth, you make some great points. I mean, there should be a safety net, right, in the United States of America. So people went out and did what they thought was right, which was get the shot. And if something goes wrong, there just is no safety net. And having gone through it, it's pretty amazing that there isn't. And that's where React-19 has really come in. And I really want to stress the importance of our organization. We are an advocacy organization to give people, help and support if they're injured by the COVID shots. But what we are really more about not telling our sad stories. We often say we've had negative reactions, but we want to turn it into positive actions. So, again, we do tell our stories at times. That's not really our goal, but our goal is to really effect change. And that's what our organization is about. We're a science-based 501c3 nonprofit advocacy organization to really give these people, hope and support.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, I mean, I totally understand that, Joel. And, I feel like you guys are alchemizing the pain into, let's build a community of people that can hold each other and support each other through these hard times. So, I mean, you've alchemized that darkness into light. So that's beautiful. But I do love the stories because it kind of shocks people awake. Like, what? How is this even happening underneath this blanket of protection of us? I feel like it's so important to get that out there. I mean, honestly, guys, when I caught I don't even think it's a virus. I call it chemical warfare. Just from my personal experience, I don't get sick. I haven't been sick in over 2 decades other than catching COVID. And when I caught COVID, I almost died. And it felt like chemical warfare. It didn't feel like any type of cold, flu, anything I've ever experienced in my life. It literally felt like I was being ripped apart on the inside for days in a row. So it's just, I just think that there's bigger things in the background that are maybe even being exposed now. So it's a good thing, I think. So you guys launched this nonprofit, and when you launched the nonprofit, how did you notice the response? Like, what type of response did you guys get?
Joel, well, I mean, Joel's feedback on this is pretty interesting, but so there's a couple of different stages to this. One is the initial response to our injuries, and the vast majority of people that were injured initially got gaslit by their providers. I was in the clinical trials, and I too, even though my legs weren't working and I had bladder and bowel issues, I was labeled as, it literally says in my medical chart, anxiety due to the COVID vaccine. And so I bounced from medical provider to provider, just trying to find someone that would take me seriously. And all they kept doing was throwing antidepressants on me, which I had never had an antidepressant before in my life. And, but I guess that was the time to do it, right? So my condition continued to decline. The reason I bring this up is because this is a classic example. Like, you could take this scenario of patients going in and being like, hey, my body feels like I'm on fire. My legs aren't working. you could copy paste this scenario 100, 1,000, several thousand times in our support groups, and you will hear the same thing over and over, that the patients get injured, they go into their doctors don't believe them, and then they aren't able to access any medical care, so their condition just continues to get worse and worse. And then everything is up to yourself, and then you become your own best advocate, you become your own doctor. You end up with a bunch of people online that are going through the same thing, and you all are just sharing what's going on and what's helping you, right? So it could be anything from vitamin D or ivermectin all the way up to IVIG or Ruconest, or like these really heavy hitting drugs that nobody can afford other than going through insurance. So, and then there's the second stage after, and Joel's an injured orthopedic surgeon, so his experience and his background is pretty relevant here in the medical field. But and then after we all found each other, we started the nonprofit. Then it was a different kind of gaslighting. It was gaslighting from the government at large. It was gaslighting from the media at large. Even social media companies came after us and literally took our support groups down, where people were just asking what to do with this horrible rash. Yeah. It was a different type of warfare that I never, ever would have expected that the American government could wage on its own people. But Joel, maybe you have something to add.
Well, I think that's pretty good, Bree. I mean, again, I think universally, or I want to say nationally, if not globally, the reaction the injured people have gotten is very similar. It's amazing. So, you get gaslit, even in our own studies, in 2021, 2022, the initial diagnosis for these people in 90% of the cases was an anxiety disorder, a psychiatric disorder. So that's where it starts. Then you get gaslit, and I'm an orthopedist by background. I'll tell you quickly my story. I'm an orthopedic surgeon, board certified orthopedic surgeon, state of Texas, state of Wisconsin, huge practice. I did about 6,000 patients a year, had a team of about 10 people that worked for me, did about 800 surgical cases a year, just had a great practice. And I would say I was in the prime of my career where honestly, I just had to show up, and it was great. My number one referral sources, were my own patients, loved the job, loved going to work, and then I was part of that 1A group on December 30th of 2020. Right before New Year's, I got a call, my number was up to come get my shot. And I was in a point of my life where, I trusted all the federal agencies. I trusted all the people that had educated and trained me my whole career. So basically, when I got a call on that morning, I actually took off at lunch and went to a different hospital to get the shot, which was unremarkable. But 7 days later, I couldn't walk and I was stumbling and my legs were numb and I had a spinal cord injury, within 7 days. So for me, it was certainly a kind of a wake-up call. I was certainly in complete denial and thought I would, my neurologist, who I saw within days, told me to take 3 months of work off. I said I'd take 2 weeks, but I took 2 weeks, tried to go back because I started having a surgical backlog and try to operate 2 half days. And that led me to basically bed rest for 5 days where I couldn't walk. So then I really quickly realized, unfortunately, my career was over, but for me, 2021 was very difficult. But then that's when later in the 2021, where we formed React-19, I've certainly found my passion to help these people. But I wanted to get back to kind of what we all universally go through, including myself, even in the medical field, even seeing providers that I personally know as colleagues of what gaslighting is. When I mentioned the vaccine to providers, I saw a cardiologist in Chicago, and my wife was with me. As soon as I said the word vaccine, he rolled his eyes and threw a sheet of paper down, which was clear gaslighting and dismissing me. My own neurologist, who actually I personally like and worked with him for probably 15 years, said, when I asked about the relationship of my spinal cord injury called transverse myelitis and the COVID shot, he said, Joel, I'm not going to go there, end quote. And basically, which is basically completely shutting me down. So that's the kind of stuff we're up against. And some of it's subtle, sometimes it's not. But the gaslighting is universal, okay? Not just here in the United States, but we have 20 international partners, and that gaslighting is universal. The other thing that I would say is universal is abandonment. And if you ask anybody, you know, how did you feel? How were you supported? You're not at all. I mean, you're truly left on an island and kind of left to navigate the waters on your own. And that's where React comes in. Now, the truth of the matter is, I've said this to Bree tons of times. If the government, the federal agencies, and our health organizations did their jobs, we would not exist. But that's the unfortunate reality. We have to exist because no one else is going to do it. This is a crazy world. Remember, the public health emergency was declared in 2021. Then you get the PrEP Act, and the PrEP Act is which gives everyone immunity, so we can't sue anybody. But the idea is if we give up our rights to sue anybody, there's supposed to be a safety net to help us. And that safety net, we've all realized, just doesn't exist. Okay. And then the irony of the situation, as you probably know, is the public health emergency ended in 2023, but the PrEP Act immunity doesn't expire now until December 31st of 2029. So we just live in this very crazy world, which I know people that aren't affected by COVID, the vaccines, want to move on. Who doesn't want to move on for this whole COVID debacle? But the truth of the matter is, for so many of us, we can't. And truly, that's why we focus on React, is trying to keep the attention on these people that still are in desperate need.
Jeez, man. Wow. It almost leaves me speechless. It's just the powers that be. I can't conceptualize their greed and just dismissal of need to help people and support people. It's not anything about the people. It's all about them and what they can get from the people. It's being shown,
But you bring up some good points. Yeah. And I always thought, is it just power? Is it greed? I think a lot of it is just pure evil. But the truth of the matter is, our call to action is a non-political, non-partisan call. We are a completely non-political organization. However, as you know, Elisabeth, we are thrown into this highly polarized environment. I admit I'm pretty much a lifelong Republican, and Brienne's a lifelong Democrat. In our organization, it doesn't matter. But the truth of the matter is all these issues have been so polarized and politicized. It's really sad because these people just need help, and they don't care what political party you're from, nor do they injury. Nor do the injuries. Yeah. So it's very unfortunate, the culture that was set up, but some of this antagonistic, polarized situation was set up by a lot of the federal agency leadership at that time, who made it polarized, so they could force their agenda onto the people.
Yeah. And I've seen it everywhere. I mean, even hearing Jess's story, I mean, I know multiple people that were injured by the vaccine, and it's like, you're right. The public and people do want to move on, but what about the people that have lost loved ones that loved ones have died, that they're carrying that grief around on them every single day? And then what about the people that are injured, suffering daily? So we can't just move on. It's impossible. That's why this message, your guys' story, the nonprofit, it deserves to be known worldwide for everybody, because like you said, you feel so alone. And to think, I study the body, right? So when you have that abandonment feeling, when you get gaslit, right? When you're going to all these different doctors and they're turning you down like you're crazy, now that's going into your consciousness, placeboing you. Now you're questioning your sanity, which is literally stressing out your body. It's causing a cascade of chemicals to be released to make you, believe that, hey, maybe I am crazy. Maybe this is my fault. Now it's creating inflammation in your body, and now you're getting worse, not better, from the system. So it's
correct. The system is making people dramatically worse. And that's why it's, and it's crazy to think that somehow in today's world, this world that we are all, it's 2026, right? Like we are supposed to be at the pinnacle of compassion in American society at this stage. And the reality is all it takes is a little bit of fear.
They do not want this conversation happening. so we're doing it live. Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Artis. I want to personally invite you to something very different. An event called Uncensored with Elisabeth Carson, the banned conversation they don't want you to hear. This is not a typical health talk. This is a live, unfiltered conversation where we will speak openly about topics that are often avoided or shut down. Zero scripts, zero restrictions, just real information and real answers. If you've ever felt like you're not getting the full picture, this event is for you. We're hosting 3 events live in 3 different cities, beginning in Dallas, May 16th, then in Las Vegas, August 8th. Yes, it will be hot. And Miami, December 5th. In-person seating is extremely limited. We are only inviting 100 people per event, and those seats will sell out fast. If you cannot attend in person, don't worry though, because you can join us virtually from anywhere. And every attendee will receive exclusive perks. And if you join us in person, you'll also receive a special gift bag with exclusive items. It will only be seen by those who purchase a ticket and attend live. Get your tickets now at ElisabethUnlimited.com/uncensored. That's ElisabethUnlimited.com/uncensored. Join me and Elisabeth Carson for an unforgettable experience. I will see you at Uncensored.
A little bit of insecurity, a little bit of threatening, your job or whatever, for people to run and hide. And in this process, they have been successful at conditioning society to turn their backs on the people that stepped up to fight the pandemic. We all stepped up to be those soldiers on the front lines, to be, stand arm in arm to end the pandemic, right? And we got left on the battlefield. And somehow it's became like socially acceptable to turn our backs on people that have been left on the battlefield. It's an amazing social experiment playing out in real time. But that's why what you're doing right now is so vitally important, because people need to talk about it. They need to check in with these people, their friends, their neighbors, their family members that have told them in the past that they are struggling with their health due to COVID vaccination, or could be another vaccine, to be honest, because these people don't have the support that they need. Their government has turned their backs on them. Society has turned their backs on them. The best support that we can offer and the best support that we see for our members is literally family support. And the family support is the front line for these injured people to literally keep them alive.
And Elisabeth, if I can make just 2 comments on after Bree here. First is just to help people understand that all these people have experienced really 2 traumas. It's a double trauma. The first trauma is the injury, the vaccine injury itself. The second trauma is how they're treated. Okay. And I often say, I kind of laugh a little bit about, and I in a lighthearted way, about an anxiety disorder diagnosis. But if you didn't have some anxiety before your shot, after you see how you're treated, then you got some anxiety. So
For sure.
that's the first thing I'll say. The second is, I'll come back to it. So, but yeah, I just want people to understand the concept of a double trauma. I think the other thing I was going to mention is, why is this important too for general society, even people that are involved? First of all, I hope some people just have a humanitarian desire to help each other, which I think some do. But the other thing is, what we went through from 2020 to now can easily be repeated. And if we don't kind of decipher out what, as a society, we're going to tolerate and how we're going to treat each other, we will be tested again. And I think in some way in short order. And I think Bree makes a great point. Look at how we responded just with a little tincture of fear, and how much liberty we were willing to readily give up with that little touch of fear. Yes. So it was amazing. I mean, as a social experiment. So I'm very fearful if we don't address this, if we don't have safety nets for society, if we don't have federal regulatory agencies that are actually looking out for us without their own conflicts of interest, This is going to come back and probably be, in the next, whether it be pandemic or the next whatever experiment comes up, we're going to be in a situation that's even exponentially worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And I completely 1,000,000% agree with you, which is why I try to share this information as much as possible, because what I really think is happening is the energy that's being walked in now is of exposure, so that these systems can kind of be exposed for the evil that really they are, so that they can be dismantled, so we can then come in and rebuild the systems in the correct way. But for people to learn, you always got to go through the bad before you get to the good. So I think that we are just tipping on the bad before everything is like, but it needs to blow up and be completely shattered and broken, so that the new can come in and be built the right way. Otherwise, it's like
You're
it's
absolutely
scary.
right. I mean,
Mhm.
COVID, the one silver lining that that I feel is a silver lining for this whole experience and the pandemic. The pandemic really exposed the evil and the dysfunction exactly where it lies, right? Like all of us were walking around society with these blinders on. Most of us the vast majority of American society was not aware of what the American government was capable of, right? We were not aware of how much power pharma had quietly been gaining as far as influence over the media, over the federal lobby in Washington, the Senate, the House, the president even, right?
Yes.
And now we see it. And now it's up to us, every single one of us. We now have that choice to put the blinders back on and try to pretend like we didn't see a thing. And I can understand why, because the problem is really big and it's really scary to look at straight on.
Mhm.
Or we can look at it straight on and demand better and expect better from these individuals that are there telling us that they are there to protect us. Well, let's make sure that they do protect us and that they do have the everyday Americans' interests as their priority.
What have you guys noticed within your organization? How much red tape and pushback have you gotten from like doctors and systems and the three-letter agencies even? Like what are they trying? What is like the message that they have that they're trying to have stay out there? Like what resistance are you guys getting? Because I know that your message is opposite of their message. So I know that they're blocking some things that could take place. So what kind of red tape have you guys, experienced?
Well, a lot of red tape, let me put it that way. So one of our strategic goals, obviously, is to try to get Americans injured by the COVID shots adequate, or I actually call it just competent medical care.
Yes.
And that's a huge challenge in the system. Okay. So the first thing is you probably know, there's been a huge shift in the last 20 years from independent medical providers to corporate healthcare. So when I first started practice, about 70% of orthopedists were independent and 30% were employed. And those numbers are almost switched now. So about 70% of orthopedists are employed and 30% are independent. What does that mean? Well, you don't necessarily do the right thing, or that you feel as a practicing physician, you do what you're kind of told and the algorithms and treatment protocols that you're instructed to use. So corporate healthcare is created a huge challenge. So for us to try to get these people care, it's very complicated. Most of the people can't find an independent provider that reads their own literature and makes their own determinations on how to treat people. So they're left to corporate healthcare. And some of our members think, oh, if you go to a place like it's a big academic center, like let's say Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic, and you'll think, oh, that's where I'm going to get the best care. Well, in our findings, actually, in our experience, that's one of the worst places to go. Okay, because that's corporate healthcare and it's administrator-led care, not necessarily providers. So we have a huge challenge here in the United States of trying to get these people adequate care. And I would tell you probably less than 1% of the medical providers here in the United States have any clue about vaccine injury COVID vaccine injury and have any clue available diagnostics and treatments. So one of our big challenges is how to try to be the conduit to connect our membership and other people that are injured by these shots with what I call as competent medical care. And we've been working very, very hard on that. But it's a huge challenge. Now, the second, as I want to address a little bit, is into the three-letter agencies. Bree and I, we've been trying to meet with people in the three-letter agencies, since 2021. And, in 2021, 2022, you could rarely get a phone call answered. You could rarely get an email answered. And oftentimes it was at a very low-level assistant or really administrator. That has changed. And I would say that I'm very happy to say that, with RFK Jr., we have, and a lot of new leadership in a lot of the three-letter agencies like Jay Bhattacharya at the NIH, people now coming into the CDC, people at the FDA. In the last, would you agree, Bria, probably the last year, we've had a dramatic change in willingness to have an open discussion about this lack of a safety net. We have a ton of ongoing discussions, really, with now, it's not just Bree and I and basically a secretary talking. It's Bree and I and some of these leaders who fortunately are listening. And again, I think we are making real progress. And I always want to be positive. And again, as I said early on, I never want to be just the one bitching and complaining. I want to try to be the one helping to come up with solutions. But I really am excited about 2026 when it comes to a lot of our federal agencies under the leadership of RFK Jr. I know he can't do as much as he wants. We all know that we want more action quicker, but DC and the three-letter agencies are complicated and change is like molasses. So but we are making progress. And I am more optimistic now than I've ever been. What do you think?
I agree. It's you've got the old guard that's trying to protect the ways of the, historically about how they've treated vaccine injury, even kids from the childhood vaccines through the CDC and the FDA, competing with the new guard that's coming in. And that type of change with existing federal employees, it's very, very, very hard for them to change how they do things, how they approach things, even how they view people that are injured. And so we got to start with a little bit of a cultural shift to help these employees actually see that, these are human beings that are dealing with real, valid medical issues that are debilitating and absolutely need some of their help because that's their job. So that's step one. And that's kind of where we've spent the last year, is just trying to help shift the culture a little bit, do our part to help shift the culture on the outside and on the inside. But now we're going to be able to get to the place where it's like, okay, now we got to do some policy change. Now we've got to start identifying these conditions. We've got to characterize the conditions. We need to see if we can get some type of therapies and protocols lined up. And that's something that's going to need a lot of support from the public. We know that the federal agencies are kind of being hoodwinked a little bit with these statistics that say that the American public is not interested in anything related to vaccines, which in our little echo chamber is the opposite of what we see. And there's been a few independent polls that have shown that the vaccine issue is an important issue, especially for conservative voters. So we need to be unified and very loud in letting the administration and the presidency know that this is an important issue for the American public, that this is something that people are not forgetting about and just wanting to move on, that we do want to see change in this area. We don't want to see people being brushed under the rug. I mean, we're seeing this with other things going on in the world right now where the marginalized victims are just being hidden away. And that's something that I think American society is tired of. Doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you're on, people are done. And we really need to take this moment in time to insist that these issues be addressed, that we insist that our government do better on our behalf. And that's kind of where we see things going in 2026. And we encourage any and all people out, our fellow Americans, right, to stand with us to push and continue to push against this narrative that, no, everything's fine. This isn't an issue for people. But we do know that this is important because people do not want to have a COVID repeat.
Mhm.
And we need to remember, just like Joel said, this is a rinse, wash, and repeat scenario that we're in right now. There
Mhm.
is not some big change coming, and we need to demand that that change happen.
Yes, yes. What would you guys suggest, like action steps for people that want to support the initiative but just don't even know where to start?
Well, one good place obviously is to shout out online. There's several steps. One is you can call the Capitol switchboard, which will get you that phone number, and they can just call the Capitol switchboard and get on the phone with their senator and their House representative and say, hey, this is an issue that's important for me. Making America healthy again is a central reason why I voted for X, right? And this is a central reason why I will vote for you again, but you need to take this issue up and you need to make this a priority.
Mhm.
When we know that we've made enough progress as far as public pressure, these politicians will start saying, they will start talking about it. They will make these talking points. Until they start talking about it, we know that this isn't something that's important enough in their political stack, right? So they are going to go out on the TV and on podcasts, and they're going to talk about the things that they think are reflective of the voters, right? And when we give up, like we kind of have, right, because it's so exhausting of a fight, and we stop raising our voices, then they're like, okay, people have moved on. I'm going to go on to the next issue, and I'm going to try to, garner my voter base in a different way. So one, call your politician. Two, you can get involved with different initiatives that are coming up. So for example, on March 18th, 2026, there is a initiative that's going to be heard at the ACIP meeting, which is the Vaccine Advisory Committee for the CDC. They have an open comment period that is just about ready to close. But they look at those comments and they kind of tally them up, who's for addressing vaccine injury and who's against addressing vaccine injury, right? So a stronger turnout in those types of forums makes the political machine move in a certain direction, right? And then the third is obviously tweet about it, talk about it, share it, demand that your friends and your families, your online communities, make it known, make your wishes known to your elected officials. And so, and other people will see that too. And so we just got to keep talking about it. So,
And I have to add in, Elizabeth, please have your listeners consider donating to React-19. Gotta put that little kicker in there. So one of the things we do, Elizabeth, is we have something called a care fund. And a care fund is a medical grant program where we give out medical grants to injured Americans, COVID-19 vaccine injured Americans. We give out medical grants for up to $10,000 for uncovered medical expenses. We've given out more than, now it's almost $1.7 million. And that's a lot more money than the federal government has given out through their own compensation program for us. So the vast majority of our money that we receive from donors goes to our care fund, and that program wouldn't exist without the generosity of our donors. So we are a completely 501c3 nonprofit organization. We run very lean. We don't have big salaries or anything else like that. I don't take a dollar from this organization, never had. And again, we love it and we're dedicated to it, but we certainly always could use the financial support of any donors.
And if people want to see and learn more about this program specifically, and the lifeline that it is for the literal lifeline that it has been for people, they can go to www.react19.org/care, CARE. And we've got several different experiences of patients who, everything from a young military veteran who was hospitalized and put in a coma for 2 months, and he woke up and literally could not move anything in his body. And he had a 9-month-old baby at that time. So he had to fight for every single millimeter of movement to get back to where he could even tell us about his vaccine injury experience. And you can imagine being in the ICU for that long and then having to move to a rehab facility for months and then move home with all of that heavy duty assistive, supportive medical equipment and the medications and everything else on top. These people are buried in medical expenses, absolutely buried. And it's amazing to see how a little bit of help, 6,000, 10,000 medical in covering their medical expenses, how much of a boost that gives these people to help them understand that people are fighting with them and for them in a world like we have described earlier of everyone is against me. Everyone is fighting against me. And here I am buried in medical debt. I'm still struggling to move my feet or my legs. This is the military vet, right? And he's trying to figure out how to navigate being a severely disabled father to now all of a sudden he is getting a little bit of financial support from this nonprofit that is provided by everyday people giving donations of like $81. That's our average donation. It dramatically changes their life and it makes them go, oh my gosh, there are people out there that will have my back, that are standing with me, that do want me to heal. And that is the power of healing. That step right there.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'll make sure that all these links are very easily accessible at the top of the description in this video. So if you guys feel inclined to donate, then please do. I mean, even $5, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, $1. Everything makes a difference, right? I mean, freaking A, man. It's just, I just get so like, how is this even a thing that is happening on the planet? Because what I know and what I've observed and what I've known through even my own experience with even some of the posts that I put out there, because I'm not afraid to stand up and tell the truth. So, people get attacked. Like, are you guys still experiencing that other side of people where they're like, oh, this saved me and you're just wrong and you're just awful and you should die? Like, that's how mad people get. Like you should die for what you're saying to people. Like I've seen the comments.
Yeah.
So,
we get it too. I feel so bad that you get it, but we actually get it from both sides. So we get because we took the vaccine. So we get from the people that didn't get it. They go, oh, well, you deserve what you got. Good luck to you. Hopefully you die. Hopefully you don't. We don't care. You guys are dumb. You didn't listen to us. And then on the other side, we get how dare you talk about your vaccine injury? You're killing people.
Yeah.
So,
and my favorite, I have to say, is we get called anti-vaxxers. So the irony is that
all the time,
to be vaccine injured, you had to get a vaccine. And I don't know how dumb people are. And I hate to use that word, but they're just dumb. But to call us anti-vaxxers is actually, I laugh every time. I think they think they're being insulting and they're going to get a reaction from me. Well, the only reaction is I literally look at them like, how dumb can they be? Because to get a vaccine, to be vaccine injured, you got the vaccine. So at the time we got it, now I'm not going to say I'm an anti-vaxxer now even. I'm a very science based person. And I realized the science that I assumed the foundation that provided the foundation for our vaccine programs was legitimate. And now I've learned that, I question now everything, which I think is healthy. But again, I do think the American people want truth and transparency in their scientific data. And I think they want informed consent. And these are some of the big issues that if we don't address now, Elizabeth, they're going to come back and bite us once again. So I just had to make the one comment about, we are frequently called anti-vaxxers all the time. I don't even know how to respond rather than just laugh and just think of how dumb they are. But it is what it is. But we do run I call it the political gauntlet, where we get attacked from the right and the right. I've had some people say, you're stupid, you're a physician, you should die. But whatever, okay, but then we get it from the other side, as we're the crazy anti-vaxxers trying to kill everybody. We're neither. Okay. We're just people, literally
Right.
trying to help other people. That's it. It's not complicated. And that's why, our mission is a very humanitarian, non-political, science-based mission to help these people, period. And we're unapologetic about it.
Mhm.
And this isn't just a US problem, it's across the world. That's why we have 20 international partners. We are the largest organization in the world, but we have 20 international partners that form an organization called CVIA, which is COVID Vaccine Injury Alliance. And none of us are going away. So we'll keep working. We appreciate you getting the word out. We like donors too, but the other thing I want to let your listeners know is if you're injured by the COVID shots, please go to our website. This Care Fund, which is this medical grant program, we want people to utilize it. We have now the funds. Early on, we had no money, but we had a goal, and we had this program. Now we have the program. Now we have the money, but we need more applicants. In fact, some of our donors, some of our major donors across the country have challenged us to try to increase our number of Care Fund applicants by 100% as compared to 2025. I know that people are injured out there, and some people that we have given money to, we try to encourage them to come after a year or more for another grant. They're very resistant to receive more because they'll say, "Well, I received a grant. There's got to be people that are worse off than I. I'm not going to ask for it again." And we're really trying to convince people, if you have financial need, if you're injured by you're injured by the COVID vaccines, and you meet our eligibility requirements, which are all on our website, apply. That's why it's there. And those people that do apply will actually, in the end, help other people because it'll encourage our donors to continue to support that program.
Yeah. It's necessary. Let me ask you guys, do you guys help people with long COVID symptoms? I mean, maybe they got the vax, but maybe they're calling it long COVID, but maybe it's actually the vaccine. Maybe it's confusing. Do you guys only help people that have gotten the vaccine?
Well, that's a great question. And like when you said it's confusing, as time has passed, there's much more of a gray zone. Okay. So I think that when you talk about the relationship between long COVID and COVID vaccine injury, it's a very complex, dynamic situation, which is only getting more complicated and dynamic over time, right? So early on, I think when I looked at Care Fund, I look at every Care Fund application. You can kind of see, okay, this person has long COVID, this person has COVID-19 vaccine injury. That situation is totally different now. I mean, geez, everyone knows if you've had 8 shots, you've probably already had COVID also 10 times, but the gray zone is worse and worse. So for us, we just try to help people. Yes, we are set up as an organization for COVID-19 vaccine injury, but we don't try to get into the weeds. I mean, we're not going to try to say, okay, 90% of your current symptoms are from vaccine injury and 10% are from COVID or long COVID. We don't really do that. We just try to help them. But I do admit, and you make a great point, Elisabeth, at how much more complicated and the clinical picture has become much more gray. Bree, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you're absolutely right. It's look, it's hopefully it's pretty obvious to your listeners at this point that you understand that this is a humanitarian mission, right? And people that are suffering with long COVID that may or may not identify some of their symptoms are from COVID vaccination or not, they still are dealing with very debilitating and serious issues. And they too cannot figure out where they can go to get help. So we're working on protocols and building a provider network to support COVID vaccine injuries and long COVID, right? So there are some resources available to help our fellow man or woman who are dealing with these serious conditions that look very similar to COVID vaccine injury. And if you need a provider, whether it's from long COVID or COVID vaccine adverse events, we do have a provider network. There's 500, I think we're up to 550 now, providers nationwide that we have personally vetted to verify that they are just compassionate doctors that have committed to not gaslight their patients and are looking into the many, many, many different ways to help treat what we have been told over and over by these doctors is the most complex condition that they have ever seen in their doctor's offices.
Yeah, yeah. And remind me, guys, when we get off of here too, I'm connected with some really talented doctors that, you guys said you're looking for some protocols and maybe some things that you can provide the people that reach out to you. So I would love to connect you with, my connections that I have within doctors and health, because the people that I'm connected with actually, they try to heal the body instead of band-aid the symptom. So
Perfect.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's what we need.
Yeah.
That's what we need. So, how are you guys getting this initiative out there? I remember kind of lightly that you guys were, I don't know, something about a documentary. So, did you guys produce a film or, something to get this message out there?
Yeah, we did. It's called Follow the Silenced with a D on the end. So it's kind of obviously a play on words for follow the science. Well, if you really want to follow the science and find the science, you need to follow the silenced. And so you can find this actually streaming online on YouTube. We wanted to make it free and accessible to everyone. This was put together by Matt Guthrie and Mickey Willis, who, if you look them up, they are a very, very talented film team that has done several very, very well done documentaries. Follow the Silence, this documentary, it starts at the clinical trials. It kind of walks through several stories at the same time. Joel is a major star in there, and I also am majorly featured in there. And we walk through the clinical trial cover up. We also walk through the government cover up, which we actually haven't touched on this podcast. And for example, there were several of us that were flown out and we were treated and diagnosed at the National Institutes of Health. So the NIH headquarters brought us out and they promised us that if we stayed quiet, that they would then disclose their findings on COVID vaccine injuries to the United States, which of course they never did. And all they did was buy our silence long enough for them to put OSHA mandates into place. So, and the military, there's military cover-up stuff in that documentary that people that have been in this movement for 5 years still do not know. So it's as far as I'm concerned, it is a must watch for people to see the magnitude of the issue and to understand exactly where the weak points are within government that need to be addressed. So you can find it on YouTube. You can go on followthesilenced.com. And this film also won an award at the Santa Monica Film Festival. It won Best Picture. So,
well, that's fantastic. And I'm so glad it did. And I just can't, my mind, I'm not surprised, unfortunately, but it's just, I just still, it's still like, what the hell, man? The NIH. So you're getting bribed basically to stay quiet so they can have enough time to cover up the real truth with their fake truths. Like, what kind of world are we living in? Like, I just
correct. That's one thing I say. I said it for the first couple of years. I was like, I can't believe it's this bad. There's no way it's this bad, but it's wild. And this also was directly under Fauci's leadership.
How is this guy walking around? That's I honestly feel, let's just go there for a second. I'm just going to be open and transparent with you guys. That's one of the most evil people that is walking on this planet. The most evil that is walking. How?
Yeah, my personal opinion, Elizabeth, is people should learn more about Peter Marks. Peter Marks was the head of biologics at the FDA, really responsible for the COVID-19 vaccination program. I don't know this is a fact, but I've been told it was called Operation Warp Speed because he's a Star Trek junkie. I honestly think Peter Marks is the devil. So I know people focus on Fauci, but we met with Brianna about 2 years, and we actually secretly recorded and videotaped him in our meetings. And if you want to ever listen to it, it's called therealpetermarks.com. It kind of gets into the weeds, and I think for most of your readers, it'll be overwhelming of the detail that we kind of set them up in. But if you want to hear a federal a leader at a federal agency basically repeatedly lie and have it on tape, it's pretty interesting. But that's why we put it up on a website. It never got the traction in media, which it should have. But he's now gone. Obviously he's been fired after RFK Jr. got in. But I'm sure he still lives out in DC. And now he works for pharma. That's right. He did get a job for Lilly.
Multi-million-dollar contract. Yeah.
So
Of course. Why? Of course.
that's the federal regulatory agency, revolving door, between, they leave, they do what pharma wants, and now he's got a nice big pharma job. But I'd encourage, if anyone's really interested, I know everyone focuses a lot about Fauci, but Peter Marks is an interesting read to learn about him, because he is evil, and he was very much behind. He was the one, like the FDA is supposed to be monitoring and protecting us from vaccines and drugs, right? But they were in a conflict of interest, actively promoting them, which is a huge conflict of interest. And he was one on some of those cartoons, that little skinny dorky guy that's out there saying, "Go get your shots." That's Peter Marks. But it's someday I hope he gets justice, and justice means he is held accountable. But believe me, it's not just Fauci that was behind the curtain there.
What you said? Okay.
Sorry, Bree, but I had to get a Peter Marks dig on this.
Peter Marks. Okay, so you guys recorded a conversation that's online. Peter, the real PeterMarks.com.
Yeah, the real PeterMarks.com. And the highlight reel of basically 2 years of conversations with this guy, top authority at the FDA. Also in that movie, follow thesilenced.com. So, but it basically, the long and the short of it is, he was responsible for addressing the COVID vaccine injuries as they emerged, which of course he didn't. Instead, he put his head down, just towed the company line. These are safe and effective. Everybody go get it. While at the exact same time that he and the rest of the federal agencies were screaming at people to get their shots, or else you're going to kill grandma. They were having meetings with us privately, telling us privately, we know that vaccine injuries are happening. We know, there's no one denying that. There's no one denying that what you're experiencing is real. While at the same time, they're censoring us and shutting down our social media platforms. So they're a little bit juicy of documentaries, but I will say that we formatted them in a way that's digestible. We wanted to leave these, and still, even with the podcasts and interviews that we do, we want to end on a note of love and compassion, because that's really the entire reason why we do what we do, is because we want to be able to show the world that just because big, powerful entities are corrupt and they do horrible things to the average American, it doesn't mean that the average American can't do the right thing. So step one for anyone that wants to see good in the world, be the good. Be the good that you want to see in the world. And that's what we've started.
Yes. Well, both of you guys, I mean, amazing work. And I'm so sorry that this happened to both of you. But at the same time, I 50% am not sorry, because you guys launched this beautiful mission and you're helping so many people. So obviously, it's for a purpose and a reason, unfortunately, to your guys' suffering. But I mean, what you guys are doing is just fantastic. And just like I told Jess, I'm going to try to push this out there as much as possible. All of the links will be in the description. And I know my followers will love to watch both of those juicy things that you guys have. So that will be in the description. And just, whatever I can do to keep supporting, please keep me posted. Let me know, because I'm all about truth and dismantling the systems that have manipulated us to believe we do not have the power and that we have to depend on them for everything in our lives. So that's my mission. I love your guys' mission. Again, where can people find you guys? What's next on the list? And yeah, like I said, all the links will be in the description. So they're there for you guys to click. But yeah, what's on your guys' plan next?
Well, what I would say is, first of all, take a look at our website. It's www.react19.org. So REACT19.org. Certainly people can get a hold of us through our website also. There is a ton of stuff, Elisabeth, going on in the next 2 months. And I would say we're super excited about it. A lot of work that we've been putting in the last year or two, around things like we talked about, compensation reform, around things, especially like trying to get care for these people. We have a lot of things that I hope are coming to fruition within the next couple of months. Which unfortunately we can't say a lot right now, because we don't want to do anything to interfere with their success and implementation. But I would encourage all your listeners to follow us on our website, because I think you'll see, I would say, a ton of really good things coming to fruition when it comes to try to getting these people care and compensation reform.
Good.
At the minimum, we got to try to, we got to get these people better care. And we're really right at the doorstep of, I would say, some pretty dramatic change for our nation.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Awesome. Well, where can people find you guys personally? I mean, do you guys have some handles, some social handles, or, where can people follow you guys?
Yeah, actually, React-19 has some pretty good social handles. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook. TikTok doesn't like vaccine injury and never will. So we just stopped after our 12th account got shut down over at TikTok. But anyway, and we also are on LinkedIn. And then Joel, of course, Joel Walskog is on Instagram. I'm on Instagram under Bree_Dressen. So between our nonprofit account and our personal accounts, there's always a lot of stuff and a lot of, updates. So if people want to know the latest on COVID vaccine injury, all things COVID vaccine injury, give us a follow.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for the work that you do. And again, I am in full support. So please let me know and keep me posted of how I can continue to support. And everybody out there, it is time for all of us to support and really become our own lobbyists, is what I was hearing from you guys. Like, we have to become our own lobbyists and lobby for what we need as the people, not these massive companies like pharma who are basically controlling the lobbying firms. We have to become the lobbyists. So guys, do what you can, spread the word, share, all that stuff. And again, thank you guys so much for spending this time with me and sharing with the world real truths. Really appreciate it. Yes. All right, guys, that was another episode of Unlimited. Until next time, peace, and love.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and don't necessarily reflect those of the producers or affiliates. We do not guarantee the accuracy of the content. Please verify information and seek professional advice when needed. By listening, you agree not to hold us liable for any actions taken based on this content. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you enjoy the episodes ahead. Love unlimited, feel unlimited.
Before we wrap, if you're done living in loop mode, the addictions, the emotional swings, the stuck seasons, start with a tool that actually shifts your state. Go to unlimitedmeditationpack.com and download the free pack I created. It's 5 targeted meditations with theta entrainment frequencies that drop you into the zone where real subconscious reprogramming happens. These sessions calm your system, clear the old patterns, and open you up to better health, better connections, more clarity, and a life that finally moves. Start there. unlimitedmeditationpack.com.